Today we're going to talk about the cats are screaming. Do you hear them? Hi, this is Leigh, and I'd like to welcome you to Alchemy Intuitive Arts. If you're a new subscriber, thank you. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you. And if you're not a subscriber, why not? Please subscribe or like or share or comment. I appreciate everyone who joins my channel. I am your mystical tour guide to take you on a cosmic trip around the spiritual galaxy. So if that piques your interest, punch your ticket and climb aboard. And stay tuned. Let's get into it. The cats are screaming. Now, I had a prediction video a month or two ago that talked about my different predictions for the year of 2025. And one of those predictions was the transfer of wealth. Well, guess what? We're already seeing that. I mean, we're only, almost 2 months into the new year, and we're already seeing a lot of things that are going to enrich each and every one of us, unless you've been holding the bag the whole time. Yes, the transfer of wealth is underway, and that's a good thing. We are seeing a lot of things going on in the government that is uncovering a huge amount of corruption. This is where our wealth has been going as Americans, and I'm sure this is happening in many other countries. We just happen to have had enough, and we are seeing with this new government an in-depth study of where our wealth is going or has been going for a long time. For example, these crazy Social Security payments to people that are 200 years old, multiple millions of checks going to people who are well over 100 years old. You make sense of it. My prediction was the transfer of wealth going from the people who have been holding the bag or getting enriched to the people like you and I. This is going to happen in a number of ways. The first way that we're seeing is the transfer of wealth in uncovering corruption, uncovering kickbacks, uncovering all those people that have been receiving money or have deals with entities or shell corporations or whatever it is that are giving money into these corporations and receiving money in return. That money, once it goes back into the coffers of the U.S. corporation, United States of America, we are going to see a return of that wealth in many different ways. We're going to see potentially less taxation. We're going to see potentially actual checks coming to us. We're going to see prices going down. Now, initially, we may see pricing going up until this economic situation gets balanced out. Right now, we're totally imbalanced. Right now, many of the wealth building companies have gone offshore. We've seen this happening for 30 years now. You know, companies, big corporations that everybody recognizes has been sending their wealth overseas. Corporations have been producing overseas and then sending it back to America, and Americans have been paying for that. We are going to see more Americans become employed. We are going to see more companies coming onshore. Therefore, there won't be tariffs, there won't be, expenses, big expenses that it costs to build things overseas and getting back charged back to the customer. And these are going to be big corporations, big consumer goods, for example, cars, maybe phones, chips, who knows what. It's going to begin to come back to America. And we're going to also see Americans getting the jobs that they went to school for. This is huge because you and I have sent our children to school and if you don't have children, well, maybe you're going to school and the whole concept is that you go to school, you get this great degree, and then you get hired by a company and you make all kinds of money. Unfortunately, the trend that we've been seeing is that many people send their kids to school, they get this great degree, and then they go out into the workforce and those jobs are occupied by people who are not U.S. citizens. Now, I'm not saying that people who are not U.S. citizens shouldn't be employed by the government, or why did I say by the government? Well, let's hold that one. That's another issue. But I'm not saying U.S. citizen or that people who are not U.S. citizens shouldn't be employed by corporations. Of course, there's many brilliant people from all over the world. So we want to hire brilliant people. We want the best person for the job to get that job. And we want our kids, U.S. children who went to school, to be paid for their efforts, to be able to get the jobs. We don't want people coming in and lowering the wages, for example, in construction or in other industries where you can't get a job that's going to pay enough to pay your rent, to pay your housing, because the workforce is getting paid so little and it's getting more and more difficult with inflation, etc., to be able to make ends meet. And when we have people coming that are taking low salaries and taking those jobs out of the hands of Americans, we're going to see a problem with Americans thriving in this country. So this is another way that we're going to see the transfer of wealth. In this way, the transfer of wealth is coming from the corporation, but it's coming by way of who gets employed and who receives that benefit. And especially if you live in an expensive state like California, New York, or other states like that, many states are very expensive to live in. For example, a one-bedroom in the city I live in can cost as much as $2,500 for a single one-bedroom apartment. It's crazy. And when you add in all the other expenses, the wealth goes in the toilet, if you know what I mean. There is no wealth. So we're going to see this transfer of wealth happening in various ways. And the reason I titled this video, "The Cats Are Screaming," is because those big cats who are getting uncovered, whose dirty deeds have been hidden behind, these shell corporations or behind these different disbursements of money or these non-profits, or these different crazy entities. This is all going to be uncovered, and it's going to be more regulated so that is not as easy to do. I think we have some brilliant people in charge of uncovering this inequity, this fraud, this corruption. Now, who knows if these people will be held accountable, but the important thing to note is that the wealth transfer is underway. The cats that are screaming are those propagandists that have been supporting putting wealth in their own pockets. This has led to a huge deficit. We know that the deficit exceeds trillions of dollars right now, and just doing these checks and balance measures, which seem really basic. I mean, it's just like, balancing your checking account, only we're balancing the checking account of the government. And we're putting in place more efficiency. We're doing this through organizations and through different authorizations and orders, etc. So anyways, you will know who those fat cats are. If you're watching the news and you hear somebody screaming or saying that their rights are being violated, well, you know that they're on the take somehow. Because why would anybody support fraud and waste of American tax dollars? Nobody. So this is the transfer of wealth. We're seeing it, and I akin it to, You know, say you're sleeping at night and all of a sudden you wake up and you hear these cats just screaming outside and they're getting into a big fight. Well, these cats are fighting for their literal lives because they have built wealth on all this inequity. And when the checks stop coming, I mean, they're going to be upset. And so you're going to see all kinds of court battles and this and that going on that is going to make it look like something is wrong with returning the wealth to you and I, but there's nothing wrong with returning the wealth to you and I. We work for it. It's our tax dollars. We should be the ones that get enriched first. Enriched through our ability to have housing. Enriched through our ability to buy food, to have good roads to drive on, to be able to purchase a vehicle, to be able to send our children to college, to be able to balance our own checkbook. I mean, come on. This is basic stuff. The cats are screaming, and the louder they scream, the more you know that this indicates a transfer of wealth is occurring. As I said, this will not be the only transfer of wealth. We're going to see other ways that wealth is being transferred in the future. But I wanted to come on here and acknowledge what is happening. And of course, from a spiritual standpoint, money is energy. And energy flows, and we're taking, that energy and taking it out of the hands of a few and putting it into the hands of many. We're going to see many people have their load lightened. They're going to be happier. When you're happier, you have a higher vibration. When you have a higher vibration, you bring in more wealth, more abundance, whether it's physical, like your health, mental, like how you feel each day, spiritual, how you grow and acknowledge and evolve, and just regular old-fashioned abundance, money, property, assets, etc. So there you have it. When you hear those cats screaming, you'll know that the wealth is on its way. Peace. Love.